Oh, okay. Chapter 10. We're going to start chapter 10 today. Interpersonal attraction from first impressions to close relationships. So let's go ahead and get started. There we go. Love. See, the clouds say love. Because humans tend to be fairly defenseless alone, we have evolved as gregarious beings. Due to this need, relationships have become the core of human existence. When people lack a need for relationships, they're diagnosed with odd personality disorders, paranoid personality disorders, schizoid personality disorder, and schizotypal personality disorder. We are people that need each other. We are animals that need each other. Since humans, as all other animals, must reproduce to survive, attraction between males and females has had to have taken place, or none of us would be here. Humans have an intense need to belong, the need to connect with others in enduring close relationships. Roy Baumeister and Mark Leary feel that the following aspects illustrate the power of social attractions. When a man and woman have a child, the child's survival chances are boosted by a nurturing of bonded parents. Social attachments enhance survival for both children and their caregivers. When separated, they seek to be reunited. People so strongly desire close relationships that they spend billions to attract the opposite sex. And this is a picture of Angelina Jolie when she was young, and this is her when she's older. As you can see, she's had cosmetic surgery. This is Britney Spears when she was young, and this is Britney Spears after her cosmetic surgery. And you can see there is a difference between them. This is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson when he was young, then as when he was older, and then just before he died. Tom Cruise and Tom Cruise. One detriment of interpersonal attraction is proximity, sometimes also called propinquity. Propinquity effect is the finding that the more we see and interact with people, the more likely they are to become our friends. Festinger, Schachter, and Bach, in 1950, tracked friendship formation among the couples in various apartment buildings. Residents had been assigned to their apartments at random. Most were strangers when they moved in. The researchers asked the residents to name their 3 closest friends in the entire housing project. Just as the propinquity effect would predict, 65% of the friends mentioned lived in the same building, even though the other buildings were not far away. Mere exposure effect, the finding that the more exposure we have to the stimulus, the more apt we are to like it. The propinquity effect occurs due to mere exposure. When we see certain people a lot and the more familiar they become, the more friendship blooms. Propinquity increases familiarity, which leads to liking, but something more is needed to fuel a growing friendship or a romantic relationship. Otherwise, every pair of roommates would be best friends. That fuel is similarity, a match between our interest, attitudes, values, background, or personality and those of another person. But folk wisdom also has another saying, opposites attract, the concept of complementarity, or that we are attracted to people who are our opposites. Birds of a feather flock together, similarity. What about opposites attract, complementarity? Research evidence proves that it is overwhelmingly similarity and not complementarity that draws people together. Similar personality characteristics promote liking and attraction. For example, in a study of gay men's relationships, men sought men with similar personalities. Those who scored high on a test of stereotypical male traits desired a partner who was most of all logical, a stereotypical masculine trait. Gay men who scored high on a test of stereotypical female traits desired a partner who was most of all expressive, a stereotypical feminine trait. And this is according to Boyden, Carroll, and Meyer in 1984. Similar personality characteristics are important for heterosexual couples and for friends as well. And that is from two studies, Aubie and Costner in 1995 and Martin and Anderson in 1995. Situations you choose to be in expose you to others with similar interests. Then, when you discover and create new similarities, they fuel the friendship. Close friendships are often made in college, in part because of prolonged propinquity. We seek physical proximity to those similar to our in appearance. We seek others with similar degree of physical attractiveness. Without even realizing it, you are often drawn to those who look like you, to the point where people are even more likely to ask out on the people that you are more likely to ask out on dates, others who are similar to them in terms of attractiveness level. For committed relationships, choose a similar partner. Relationships based on differences can be difficult to maintain. Perceived similarity more important than actual similarity. Low level of commitment, fling, choose dissimilar partners. We like people who like us. For initial attraction, reciprocal liking can be overcome. Dissimilarity in attitudes, attentional biases to attract faces. To attractive faces. Liking is so powerful that it can even make up for the absence of similarity. In one experiment, when a young woman expressed interest in male research participants simply by maintaining eye contact, leaning toward them and listening attentively, the men expressed great liking for her despite the fact that they knew she disagreed with them on important issues. And that's according to Gold, Reichman, and Mosley in 1984. Whether the clues are nonverbal or verbal, perhaps the most crucial determinant of whether we will like person A is the extent to which we believe person A likes us. Just how powerful is reciprocal liking? One indicator of just how important physical appearance is in attraction is our nearly chronic tendency to shift visual attention to attractive others in our immediate vicinity. According to recent research, it is powerful enough to neutralize our basic tendency to pay more attention to attractive faces. What does she have on her hand? Huh. Physical attractiveness plays an important role in liking. Hatfield and her colleagues randomly matched 752 incoming students at the University of Minnesota for a blind date at a dance during freshman orientation week. Although the students had previously taken a battery of personality and aptitude tests, the researchers paired them up at random. On the night of the dance, the couple spent a few hours together dancing and chatting. The partners then evaluated their date and indicated the strength of their desire to date that person again. Of the many possible characteristics that could have determined whether they liked each other, such as the partner's intelligence, independence, sensitivity, or sincerity, the overriding determinant was physical attractiveness. What's more, there was no great difference between men and women on this score. Several studies have found that men and women pay equal attention to the physical attractiveness of others. Other studies have reported that men value attractiveness more than women do. A meta-analysis of many studies found that while both sexes value attractiveness, men value it somewhat more, and that's according to Feingold in 1990. Of course, that research is 35 years old. It may be that men are more likely than women to say that physical attractiveness is important to them in a potential friend, date, or mate, but when it comes to actual behavior, the sexes are more similar in their response to the physical attractiveness of others. The finding that we like people who like us suggests that the strategy of playing hard to get can sometimes backfire. Recent research suggests that the strategy tends to decrease how much another person likes you, all the while potentially increasing how much that person wants to be with you. High attractiveness ratings are associated with large eyes, small nose, small chin, prominent cheekbones, high eyebrows, large pupils, and big smile. And that is for women. That's what men are looking for in women. Large eyes, small nose, small chin, prominent cheekbones, high eyebrows, large pupils, and big smile. And there you go. There's Miss USA, no, Miss World competition or Miss Universe or something. Male faces, what is attractive? High attractiveness rates are associated with large eyes, prominent cheekbones, large chin, and big smile. Facial attractiveness is perceived similarly across cultures. Symmetry is preferred. Size, shape, and location of the features on one side match the other side of the face. Averaged composite faces are preferred. Lost atypical or asymmetrical variations are not perceived as attractive. And this, of course, is Halle Berry. And as you can see, whether you put her left side with her right side or what she actually looks like, she looks exactly the same. This is David Beckham. And as you can see, there's a great deal of difference between his left side, right side, and how he actually looks. This is how he actually looks. Okay. And I can't even guess as far as Halle Berry is concerned. They all look alike to me. Across cultures throughout the world, consensus emerges. Perceivers think some faces are just better looking than others. Even infants prefer photographs of attractive faces to unattractive ones, and infants prefer the same photographs adults prefer. Attractive faces for both sexes are those whose features tend to be the arithmetic mean or average for the species and not the extremes. This does not mean a composite average face has all the physical qualities that people cross-culturally agree are highly attractive. Familiarity may be crucial, a variable for interpersonal attraction. People prefer faces that most resemble their own. A crucial variable that explains interpersonal attraction may be simple familiarity. When research participants rate attractiveness of faces, they prefer faces that most resemble their own. The researchers also computer morphed a picture of each participant's face without the participant's knowledge into that of a person of the opposite sex. When they presented this photo to participants, they gave the photo of their opposite sex clone even higher ratings of attractiveness. And this was done in 2002 by Little and Parrott. Benefits of beauty. Beauty has been associated with better health outcomes for infants in hospitals, better earnings, better teaching, evaluations, and winning elections. And of course, this is Mitt Romney from Utah, used to be from Massachusetts, and this is former governor of Alaska. I can't think of her name. Anyway, she ran for vice president with John McCain. A particularly chilling example of the unfair benefit of beauty was discovered by Bader and Abdallah in 2001, who rated the facial physical attractiveness and health status of premature infants born in hospitals in Beirut, Lebanon. They found that physical attractiveness significantly predicted the health outcomes of these infants above and beyond the contribution of factors such as their medical condition. The more attractive the infant, the more quickly he or she gained weight and the shorter his or her stay in the hospital. The reason? Neonatal nurses responded more to the prettier infants and gave them better care. As one of the researchers said, nurses played much longer with the cuter babies, held them longer, and spent longer feeding them. It's really upsetting. What if they had an ugly kid? Physical beauty affects attributions. Halo effect is a cognitive bias by which we tend to assume that an individual with one positive characteristic also possesses other, even unrelated positive characteristics. What is beautiful is good is a stereotype. The beautiful are thought to be more sociable, extroverted, popular, sexual, happy, assertive. Meta-analyses have revealed that physical attractiveness has the largest effect on both men's and women's attributions when they are judging social competence. It's no coincidence that in children's movies, the hero is traditionally attractive and the villain is ugly. In addition to finding it pleasing to look at attractive others, we also tend to assume that what is beautiful is good. Highly attractive people do develop good social interaction skills, report having more satisfying interactions with others. Self-fulfilling prophecy, the beautiful receive a great deal of social attention. It helps them develop good social skills. Undoubtedly, this kernel of truth in the stereotype occurs because you probably recognize the self-fulfilling prophecy at work here. The way we treat people affects how they behave and ultimately how they perceive themselves. Can a regular person be made to act like a beautiful one via the self-fulfilling prophecy? Researchers gave college men a packet of information about another research participant, including her photograph. This was in 1977, Snyder, Tonk, and Berscheid. The photograph was rigged. It was either of an attractive woman or of an unattractive woman. The men were told that they would have a telephone conversation with this woman in this experimental condition. Only verbal communication, no gestures or facial expressions, was used. The experimental purpose of the photograph was to invoke the men's stereotype that what is beautiful is good, that the woman would be more warm, likable, poised, and fun to talk to if she was physically attractive than if she was unattractive. In fact, the photograph the men were given was not a photo of the woman with whom they spoke. Did the men's beliefs create reality? This study was later replicated with the roles switched. Women participants looked at a photograph of an attractive or an unattractive man and then spoke with him on the phone. The men were unaware of the woman's belief about them, and just as in the original study, the women acted on their prophecy, and the unknowing men responded accordingly. These data remind us that it is a myth that physical attractiveness affects women's lives more than men's. 3 meta-analyses that have examined the effect of attractiveness on behavior and perceptions across hundreds of studies have found no gender differences. Physical attractiveness is as important a factor in men's lives as women's. Evolutionary psychology is the attempt to explain social behavior in terms of genetic factors that evolved over time according to principles of natural selection. Men and women were attracted to different characteristics in each other that maximize reproductive success. The evolutionary approach to love concludes that reproductive success for the two sexes translates into 2 very different behavior patterns. Throughout the animal world, males' reproductive success is measured by the quantity of their offspring. They pursue frequent pairings with many females in order to maximize the number of their surviving progeny. In contrast, females' reproductive success lies in successfully raising each of their offspring to maturity. They pair infrequently and often only with a careful chosen male because the cost of raising and ensuring survival of each offspring is so high. And that is from two pieces of research, Burkow in 1989 and Simons in 1979. For women, reproduction is costly in terms of time, energy, and effort. They must endure the discomforts of pregnancy and birth, and then care for their infants until maturity. Reproducing then is a serious business, so women, the theory goes, must consider carefully when and with whom to reproduce. In comparison, reproduction has few costs for men. And the joke says, "Tonight was the first step in my natural selection process, James. I'm sorry, but you were not selected." Researchers asked more than 9,000 adults in 37 countries desirable marriage partner characteristics. Women valued more than men ambition, industriousness, earning capacity. Men valued more than women attractiveness. Top characteristics for both were the same: honesty, trustworthiness, and pleasant personality. When women are near their ovulation and fertility peak, they have a greater preference for men who exhibit signs of reproductive fitness: symmetrical face, masculine face, muscular physique. The evolutionary approach to attraction and love has inspired its share of debate. One could argue that evolutionary advantages to having multiple sexual partners would be would not be, should not be limited to men, but should also apply to women. With multiple partners, females would increase the odds of getting resources for their offspring, as well as benefit from genetic diversity. Females could choose an attractive male with good genes with whom to procreate and another male with whom to raise the offspring. It may also be the case that men value physical attractiveness in a partner not because of evolved tendencies, but simply because they have been taught by society to value it. They have been conditioned by decades of advertising and media images to value beauty in women and to have a more recreational approach to sex than women do. Research has found that in some situations, women value physical attractiveness just as much as men, specifically when they are considering a potential sexual partner as opposed to a potential marriage partner. Other researchers offer additional arguments that the preference for different qualities in a mate can be explained without resorting to evolutionary principles. Around the world, women typically have less power, status, wealth, and other resources than men do. Therefore, in many societies, women need to rely on men to achieve economic security, and they must consider this characteristic when choosing a husband. How are attraction and social connection affected by modern technology? Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Tinder, text, virtual reality. Field experiment of 100 real life interactions. Pairs with mobile device rated connectedness and empathy lower than pairs without devices. Huh. Don't bother me, can't you see I'm texting? As amazing as the technologies are, mobile devices are like smartphones can also impair our feelings of social connectedness to others during the course of a face-to-face interaction. Propinquity in internet world, not that many degrees of separation. Similarity, people seek others with similar popularity in online dating sites. Familiarity, liking decreased after meeting compared to liking based on online profile. Inaccuracy of online information usually had something to do with it. Propinquity, physical distance no longer means what it once did. And the internet allows us to get to know people half a world away. Leskavec and Horvitz conducted a study testing degree of separation, measuring the social distance between people. These researchers analyzed an instant messaging network, looking at who sent messages to whom. They found that the average length of a person chain was 7, and that 90% of pairs could be connected in just 8 hops. And that's according to research by those two researchers in 2007. Similarity, Taylor and colleagues in 2011 found that high popularity users of the site contacted other popular users at a rate greater than would be expected by chance, a finding that probably does not surprise you. After all, who wouldn't want to reach out to the popular potential mates? Well, the less popular users of the site, that's who. The researchers also found that users lower in popularity contacted other low popularity users more often. Familiarity. In this research, Michael Norton and colleagues in 2007 gave a survey to participants both before and after going on a date. Pre-date, all the participants knew about their partner was what they had read on the website profile, so their ratings of how much knowledge they had about their partner increased post-date. But their ratings of how much they liked their partner decreased after the date, as did perceptions of how similar they were. Why? Because the more familiar participants became with their partner during the date, the more they realized that their initial impression based on an ambiguous dating website profile was not that accurate. The new world of internet dating, one question surrounding attraction is how tendencies regarding mate preference that have evolved over generations play out in the modern era of internet dating, speed dating events, and Facebook. The promise and pitfalls of online dating, the benefits, number one, it aggregates a large number of profiles. Another benefit, it provides opportunity for communication. And last, it matches users based on analyses of compatibility, but success rate not higher than other old-fashioned methods. 81% provide inaccurate information in their profile for at least one characteristic. They lie about their weight, their age, or their height. There are no gender differences in the lying that they do. They're deceptive and they have misleading photos. A recent review of online dating reports that by 2005, 37% of single internet users were dating online, a percentage that is almost certainly much higher today. And by 2007-2009, more new romantic relationships had begun online than through any means other than meeting through friends. Where did nobody knows you're a dog? On the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. A cartoon where nobody knows you're a dog. Sternberg's triangular theory of love, the three components, intimacy, passion, and commitment, are combined in various ways to form 7 different types of love. Liking, intimacy alone without passion or commitment. Most friendships fit in this category. Infatuation, passion alone without intimacy or commitment. It involves a great deal of physiological and emotional arousal, a heightened level of sexual desire, no emotional closeness, no enduring commitment. Empty love, commitment alone, no passion, no intimacy. A couple who have been married for many years and have lost the passion and the intimacy in their relationship. In countries where there are arranged marriages, the early stages of marriage tend to be empty. Romantic love, there is passion, there is intimacy, there is no commitment. It is joyful, it is intense, it rarely lasts for very long. Companionate love, there is intimacy, there is commitment, there is no passion. This type of love occurs with long-term couples. The passion has decreased, but they still feel intimate toward one another. They certainly are committed to one another since they've been together for ever. Fatuous love, fatuous means foolish. There is passion, there is commitment, there is no intimacy. Whirlwind courtships fit this criteria. People meet, fall passionately in love, and then get married before they have a chance to really know each other. And this is kind of what happened with Romeo and Juliet. Consummate love. Passion is there, intimacy is there, commitment is there, the ideal love for many people. And of course, this is a picture from Princess Bride, from the cover of the original book, actually, which I've read, by the way. Although love is a universal emotion, how we experience it and what we expect from close relationships is linked to culture. And that's according to Levenger in 1994. Romantic love is viewed as more crucial in individualistic cultures compared to collectivistic ones. Japanese ame. The Japanese describe ame as an extremely positive emotional state in which one is totally passive love object, indulged and taken care of by one's romantic partner, much like a mother-infant relationship. It is sometimes described as married and divorced at the same time. Ame has no equivalent word in English or in any other Western language. And this is a positive concept. Married and divorced at the same time. The Chinese concept of ganqing differs from the Western view of romantic love. Ganqing is achieved by helping and working for another person. For example, a romantic act would be fixing someone's bicycle or helping someone learn new material. That's according to Gao in 1996. In Korea, a special kind of relationship is expressed by the concept of jung. Much more than love, jung is what ties two people together. Couples in new relationships may feel strong love for each other, but they have not yet developed strong jung. That takes time and many mutual experiences. Interestingly, jung can develop in negative relationships too. For example, between business rivals who dislike each other. Jung may unknowingly grow between them over time, with the result that they will feel that a strange connection exists between them. And that's according to Lim and Choi in 1996. Attachment styles play an important role in adult relationships. Researchers feel that once an attractive style is formed in early childhood, it will continue to function as a durable template throughout later relationships. Thus, a romantic partner will most likely treat their partner in the same manner they treated their significant caregivers. An individual who was securely attached as a child had parents who were responsive and dependable. These individuals not only trust themselves, but trust others as well. They are comfortable with themselves whether they are in a relationship or not. An individual who was attached to their parents in a preoccupied or resistant manner had parents who were inconsistent in their displays of love. Alcoholics tend to demonstrate this attachment style. These individuals have trouble trusting themselves and tend to be dependent on others. These individuals must be continually in a relationship and display possessiveness and jealousy. An individual who was attached to their parents in an avoidant manner had parents who were dismissive, psychologically distant, or physically unavailable. These individuals trust themselves but not others. They seek close relationships but then react in an emotionally distant manner. These individuals are the most likely to end up in a serial one-night stand encounter. An individual who is attached to their parents in a disorganized, disoriented manner had parents who were neglectful or abusive. These individuals have trouble trusting themselves or others. These individuals struggle in relationships and may seek individuals similar to their parents, thus becoming the victim of domestic violence. A team of researchers recruited college students in the greater New York area who described themselves as currently being intensely in love. They asked these research participants to bring two photographs to the experimental session, one of their beloved and one of an acquaintance of the same age and sex as their beloved. After filling out some questionnaires, the participants were ready for the main event. They slid into a functional MRI scanner, which records decreases and increases in blood flow in the brain. These changes in blood flow indicate which parts of the brain have neural activity at any given time. While the participant was in the scanner, the experimenters alternated one photograph and then the other, interspersed with a distraction task. Prior research has found that the VTA becomes highly active when people ingest cocaine, inducing feelings of pleasure, euphoria, restlessness, sleeplessness, and loss of appetite, reactions that are reminiscent of falling in love. The VTA, rich in the neurotransmitter dopamine, also fires when people eat chocolate. Thus, the VTA is a major reward and motivation center of the brain, as is the caudate nucleus. Functional MRI studies of gamblers' brains as they gambled showed greatly increased activity when they won. Thus, when people say that falling in love is like a drug or like winning a lottery, they're right. All of these experiences activate the same dopamine-rich centers of pleasure. Social exchange theory holds that how people feel positively or negatively about their relationship will depend on 1. Their perception of the rewards they receive from the relationship. 2. Their perception of the costs they incur. And 3. Their perception of what kind of relationship they deserve and the probability that they could have a better relationship with someone else. And the joke says, of course I can accept you for who you are. You are someone I need to change. Whoa. This simple notion that relationships operate on an economic model of costs and benefits, much like the marketplace, has been expanded by psychologists and sociologists into complex theories of social exchange. They buy the best relationships we can get, one that gives us the most value of our emotional dollar. Rewards are the positive, gratifying aspects of the relationship that make it worthwhile and reinforcing, including the kinds of personal characteristics and behaviors of our relationship partner that we have already discussed, and our ability to acquire external resources by virtue of knowing this person, for example, gaining access to money, status, activities, or other interesting people. In Brazil, friendship is openly used as an exchange value. Brazilians will readily admit that they need a pistola, literally a big, powerful handgun, meaning that they need a person who will use their personal connections to help them get what they want. Costs are the other side of the coin, and all friendships and romantic relationships have some costs attached to them, putting up with someone's annoying habits and characteristics. The outcome of the relationship is a direct comparison of its rewards and costs. You can think of it as a mathematical formula where outcome equals rewards minus costs. If you come up with a negative number, your relationship is not in a good shape. Over time, you have amassed a long history of relationships with other people, and this history has led you to have certain expectations as to what your current and future relationships should be like. Some people have a high comparison level, expecting lots of rewards and few costs in their relationship. If a given relationship doesn't match this expected comparison level, you will be unhappy and unsatisfied. People who have a low comparison level would be happy in the same relationship because they expect relationships to be difficult and costly. There are a lot of people out there. Could a relationship with a different person give you a better outcome or greater rewards for fewer costs than your current one? People who have a high comparison level for alternatives, either because they believe the world is full of fabulous people dying to meet them, or because they know of a fabulous person dying to meet them, are more likely to get into circulation and make a new friend or find a new lover. People with a low comparison level for alternatives will be more likely to stay in a costly relationship because to them what they have is not great but is better than that expectation of what they could find elsewhere. We know that many people do not leave their partners even when they are dissatisfied and their other alternatives look bright. Research indicates that we need to consider at least one additional factor to understand close relationships, a person's level of investment in the relationship. To predict whether people will stay in an intimate relationship, we need to know 1. Their level of satisfaction in the relationship, 2. What they think of the alternatives, and 3. The degree of their investment in the relationship. And the joke says, I miss you, but probably not as much as you miss me because I'm awesome. Equity theory, equitable relationships are the happiest and most stable. Rewards and costs are roughly equal. In inequitable relationships, one person feels over-benefited, lots of rewards, few costs. They devote little time or energy to the relationship. Under-benefited, few rewards, high costs. Devote a lot of time and energy to the relationship. Inequity is more important to a person who is under benefited. Does equity operate the same way in long-term versus new relationships? Not exactly. The more we get to know someone, the more reluctant we are to believe that we are simply exchanging favors, and the less inclined we are to expect immediate compensation for a favor. In casual relationships, we trade in kind. You lend someone your class notes, he buys you a beer. But in intimate relationships, we trade very different resources, so determining if equity has been achieved can be difficult. Long-term intimate relationships seem to be governed by a loser give and take notion of equity rather than a rigid tit-for-tat strategy. According to Clark and Mills, interactions between new acquaintances are governed by equity concerns and are called exchange relationships. In comparison, interactions between close friends, family members, and romantic partners are governed less by an equity norm and more by a desire to help each other in times of need. In these communal relationships, people give in response to others' needs, regardless of whether they are paid back. To test the exchange and communal relationship model, Russ Bolt in 1983 asked college students involved in heterosexual dating relationships to fill out questionnaires for 7 months. Every 3 weeks or so, people answered questions about each of the components of the model. Russ Bolt also kept track of whether the students stayed in the relationships or broke up. People's satisfaction, alternatives, and investments all predicted how committed they were to the relationship and whether it lasted. The higher the number on the scale, the more each factor predicted the commitment to and length of the relationship. Subsequent studies have found results similar to those for married couples of diverse ages, for lesbian and gay couples, for close non-sexual friendships, and for residents of both the United States and Taiwan. A further test of the model focused on couples' willingness to make personal sacrifices for their partner or for the sake of the relationship, and this is a study done by Van Lang et al. In 1997. The researchers found that couples willing to make sacrifices for each other were strongly committed to their relationship, a commitment stemming from a high degree of satisfaction and investment in the relationship and the low quality of alternatives to the relationship. The current American divorce rate is nearly 50% of the current marriage rate and has been for the past 2 decades. And of course, countless romantic relationships between unmarried individuals end every day. After many years of studying what love is and how it blooms, social psychologists are now beginning to explore the end of the story, how it dies. Is the breakup moral? If you find yourself in a romantic relationship and your partner seems inclined to break it off, try to end it mutually. Your experience will be less traumatic because you will share some control over the process, even if you don't want it to happen. And the joke says, one question, when you're through breaking up with me, can I break up with you? The relationship dissolution is not a single event, but a process with many steps. According to Duck, it has 4 stages, and this is research done by Duck in 1982. The first is interpersonal stage. They think about dissatisfaction. The second is dyadic, discusses breakup with their partner. The third is social, breakup announced to others. And intrapersonal, recovery by thinking about why and how it happened. And the joke says, it was a mutual breakup. Kevin and I both thought we were too good for each other. Another approach to studying why relationships end considers what attracted the people to each other in the first place. In one study, college men and women were asked to focus on a romantic relationship that had ended and to list the qualities that first attracted them to the person and the characteristics they ended up disliking the most about the person. 30% of those breakups were examples of fatal attractions. The very qualities that were initially so attractive became the very reasons why the relationship ended. He's so unusual and different became he and I had nothing in common. She's so exciting and unpredictable became I can never count on her. This type of breakup reminds us again of the importance of similarity between partners to successful relationships. Russ Bolt identified 4 types of behavior that occur in troubled relationships. Destructive behaviors, actively harming the relationship, abusing the partner, threatening to break up, actually leaving, passively allowing the relationship to deteriorate, refusing to deal with problems, ignoring the partner, spending less time together, putting no energy into the relationship. Constructive behavior is actively trying to improve the relationship, discussing problems, trying to change, going to a therapist, passively remaining loyal to the relationship, waiting and hoping that the situation will improve, being supportive rather than fighting, remaining optimistic. Can we predict the different ways people will feel when their relationship ends? Responsibility for the breakup is an important factor. Breakers, a high level of responsibility, least painful, upsetting, and stressful. Breakees, low level of responsibility, miserable, lonely, depressed, and angry. Mutuals, same level of responsibility, not as upset as breakees, but more stressed than breakers. Factors that affect experience of breakup: gender, women report more negative reactions than men. Do people stay friends after the breakup? Heterosexual men are not interested in friendship, regardless of their role in breakup. Women are more interested in remaining friends, especially if they are the breakee. Anyone is more interested in remaining friends if the satisfaction and investment in the relationship were high. And that is the end of the chapter. So I'll talk to you again next week. Can't remember what we're talking about. 2 different chapters next week.